Herzlich willkommen im Republikanischen Club. Thanks for coming. We are a small group, but maybe we have more intense debates afterwards. Our topic today is the question if Poland is or is on the way becoming another illiberal democracy. It's a term, as we all know, that is coined from Viktor Orban and his idea of remodeling the state Hungary. So what we are seeing at the moment is a lot of protests against the newly elected right-wing PiS-government in Poland and the ongoing breaches of the constitution, for example, of new laws for media, new surveillance laws, etc. And also we see a lot of, on the other hand, a lot of protests against this, intellectuals, NGOs, new formed alliances such as the Committee for Defense of Democracy, that's it, protesting against it. So Sławomir is coming today from Warsaw. Thanks for coming. He's one of the activists that is taking part in the protest and also commenting on it. Just a brief introduction of you. Sławomir is the founder of Krytyka Polityczna, Political Critique. Political Critique is a highly active activist and intellectual network of left liberal intellectuals in Central Eastern Europe with branches in Ukraine, Poland, Czech Republic, Germany and even Russia. But mainly you are focusing on your activities in Poland with online daily, with publisher house and so on, and a lot of activities. I can't name them all. And at the moment you're still writing your PhD on the intellectual biography, I hope you're still writing it, of Czesław Miłosz. So I will jump right into the first question, Sławomir. The new PiS government is quite in a hurry, I have the feeling quite in a hurry to pass all these laws I was mentioning before. Why is it that they are in such a hurry? Why so quick?
Actually, it's a very good question because, true, it's surprising because actually it works against them. Well, they could do the same thing, but not in 1 month, but in 3 months. They could also do it different way, and probably the protest would be then much weaker. But they decided to do everything like day and night, even holidays. Like one of the laws that is the most controversial, the law that paralyzes the Constitutional Court, was approved in the Christmas Day, 4 a.m., which was really, well, of course you can say that this way they can avoid the, public that sleeps this day or thinks about, Christmas food, not necessarily about politics, and partly it's true, but even but even the regular people understand that, like, they try to cheat us. I think also the people that supported Kaczynski, they are for sure surprised because, like, they didn't mention anything in the campaign about what they are doing now. They mentioned many things, they promised everything to everybody, but they never said anything against Constitutional Court, for example. And the first thing that they cared about was the Constitutional Court. So actually it looks like a chaotic revolution. They are very efficient in finding, like in this kind of chess with the media or like with the rest of the world, to put it together. And the question why they are so fast, I will mention it, or during the discussion I will try to describe what they did already, what are the weak points of them, what are the strong points of them, what kind of opposition we have, and how efficient this opposition is or can be. So you will have like a picture of. So I will report and inform about Poland like Kaczynski thinks, like fully, no worries, you're gonna know everything, I hope. But the question why so fast, it's really still a question mark. Maybe maybe I should start with saying what's different and why Orban is very different than Kaczynski, for example, because one of the slogans of Kaczynski party was, let's build Budapest in Warsaw. Budapest in Warsaw. And, but actually, however, they are very often very often mentioned together, they're very, very different. I'm saying it because it can be the answer. Orban is rather a cynic, Kaczynski is rather a fanatic. So Orban would do it different way, would do it, at the end of the day, cynic is pragmatic. So like, cynic can do things that we don't like, do things against the moral laws, can cheat, can lie, can do many bad things, but doesn't work against itself, or doesn't work against, or doesn't go too far. So Orban is dancing on the red line instead of crossing this red line. And the differences are like this. First of all, Kaczynski party doesn't belong to the biggest Euro fraction in Euro Parliament, to the People's Party, and Orban, of course, did this choice. Kaczynski is with some crazy Brits and one of those small factions, yeah. Orban would never go against Berlin. He always is defended by Merkel and Berlin. When he comes to Brussels, he's good like a baby. When he's, of course, in Budapest, he can do and say everything about Brussels. But he never, like, he makes one move, or two moves, forward and one back. So he's really different. And of course, Poland, and his situation is much better, because his support in society is much bigger. He got 53% in election, which is very different than 37. Actually, he doesn't need to break laws or break constitutions, because he got constitutional majority in first elections. In second, of course, he changed a lot with like gerrymandering and other things to get it again with a smaller support. So he is a cheater, of course, as well, no question about it. But you cannot say that illiberal democracy in Hungary is not legitimized by the society, it's not approved by the society. Probably the majority of society in 2010 voted consciously on illiberal democracy or illiberal ideas of Orban. Or if not, then it's very hard to argue with this. Kaczynski would never get 53%, like 37 only with a big luck, because other parties, we had like few parties that were very close to threshold, so they didn't enter the parliament, but their votes went to the biggest party. This is why he has that one party rules Poland. But it's really, he had a lot of luck with this. And you don't have it every day. You don't have it. You cannot count that you will have it every election. Never mind. He has full power in Poland, and differently than Orban, he is not a prime minister or president. He's not a leader of the state. He's a leader of the party, but he would never win any elections like a president, for example. He's unelectable in Poland. Like, he has the biggest negative electorate. He's unpopular. He's just unpopular. He's hated by at least like 50% of Poles, and he's a person that doesn't have regular normal relations with anybody. He had with the twin brother, but twin brother died in a catastrophe. They would say that it was not a catastrophe, but it was done by Tusk and Putin and Mossad and whatever. Yeah, and. No, Mossad no. Kaczynski was never anti-Semite, okay. But it was, but for sure, yeah. So differently than Orban, the support, and also there is one more important difference. Orban party is not the far right party when it comes to the construction of political scene. There is still Jobbik. So when he comes to Brussels, he can say, guys, you don't like me. fight with me, but then next day you're gonna have Jobbik ruling Hungary. So this is very important advantage or difference. Kaczynski is the far-right party in Poland. However, the good thing about Kaczynski was, and the only real achievement for democracy, is that he used to always very efficiently swallow even more right-wing parties, like Jobbik's, and they were like you know emerging, and Kaczynski always could like take them inside and like paralyze them. So he's very efficient in it.
So you don't have any right-wing opposition to the PiS. Okay. One division you were already mentioning was the division between what is inner affair and what is outside, so foreign policy and inner policies. Maybe you can elaborate later a little on this, what the differences are. Is there also a conservative revolution in foreign policies in Poland, or is this an area where nothing has changed? I'm not quite sure. Maybe you can say something about this, but concerning this Poland and Hungary, comparison, the two of them, what would you say, is it still the same aim of this conservative revolution but different tactics? So if I think about, so Agnes Scheller was sitting here 2 years ago and she was talking about Hungary and the policy of Viktor Orban, and she said it's a kind of neo-Bonapartism. It's more or less a criminal regime that is trying to, you know, stuff money in their own pockets. And we have the same problem, or had the same problem, still have the same problem with the right-wing government in Austria from 2000 to 2005. We still have trials and a lot of talking about what happened back there, and people that put personal advantage of the conservative revolution. So is this the overall topic, overall aim, or what is the overall aim of Kaczynski and PiS? Is it the idea of a conservative state like Orban, or are there other aspects of it?
Mm-hmm. We need mics for camera, yes or no? If not, then we hear each other, don't we? Anybody don't hear me? If not, then I can use this one.
I will use it because I can hold it.
No problem. If you feel more like serious with the mic.
Yeah, of course. No, it's before the video. People don't know how many are here.
Wait, because I will forget the question. The question was about the reasons or
the overall
shape of. Okay.
The overall aim.
Again,
is it the same aim?
I don't want to talk only about differences between Orban or Kaczynski, like might pray to the gods so they will really be different. It's really that they're different because, and here's another one. The Orban regime is very corrupted. It's much more like connected to the like great business. The guy who was the second important person in Fidesz is the guy who is an oligarch. This Lajos Szymeczka, not Szymeczka, this Hungarian language is not really easy. So, but there is like a guy whose name is Lajos and who used to run all the businesses. Now he had an argument with Orban, so they divorced. But Fidesz always from the beginning was doing a lot of money in the grey sphere and was running many businesses, which was permitted, which was possible in Hungary somehow. But Kaczynski, and actually this is, I don't know, good thing about politicians or not, like in Poland, the leaders, people like Tusk, Kaczynski, or Balcerowicz, to mention a few different, wouldn't have, and I don't think that they will steal even one złoty. So they're extremely honest because they don't think about it. Kaczynski doesn't have credit card, doesn't have account in bank, doesn't have driving license, doesn't have anything in this way. He doesn't exist like by the like really, like if he would disappear, you wouldn't like prove me that he existed, but yeah, really. So he's just focused only on politics. This is Polish way of like having historical heroes for good and for bad. But this I think he thinks about his position in the history, but not because he wants to be so important, but because he thinks that Poland really needs it. And when we tell him that not really, he doesn't really accept this fact. But yeah. So from this point of view, the regime of Orban is different, and I think Polish way is more dangerous because, as I said, he will do everything to realize his project, and I think this project is, I mean, everything that is like a foreign policy or economy or other things are not interesting for Kaczynski. So the government is divided into two parts. One is like it's not divided, but like a half of the government is interesting for Kaczynski and a half is not. The half that it's interesting for him is secret service, police, military probably, and of course like education, culture, and public media, because those three things help him to indoctrinate people. And these three things, well, I'll come back to it, but more or less more or less it's about like the like police regime. This is what is interesting for him. Like, but economy, foreign policy, all of it, not really. He doesn't have any idea about it. However, of course, he has people that think about it. But this will always be dependent, or like this will always be secondary to the thing. So like his first government, 2005-2007, almost every minister was a persecutor by the profession. So it was the government of prosecutors. And now it's a similar thing. So I think that his plan is divided into two steps. One step is, as fast as is possible, so I'm answering to your first question, take over public institutions that you, like everything what you can get. So public media, state-owned companies, independent prosecution now is dependent. Now the general prosecutor is in the same time Minister of Justice. What they got from the beginning, like what they yeah, of public media I mentioned, like of course all the like institutions of culture. So they eliminated the law that you need to be you need to go through the competition to be selected, okay, and approved by some kind of like experts, council of experts. Now there is no law that you cannot belong to a party if you are a civil servant or a chief of civil servants. You don't need to be approved by any or go through any competition, even to go to any place in Poland, like, you know, state-owned companies or civil servants. Now the guy who is chief of public TV, which is very strong, 2 big channels out of 4 are public still, and the guy who is a leader of it, his nickname in politics is Bull Terrier of PiS, of Kaczynski. So he was like the strongest fighter. So he used to run campaigns, political campaigns for. He's the most cynical guy. He's like the synonym of cynicism. And so he, and of course he's a politician. And the law they changed about the public media, now it's like, it has like 4 paragraphs, it's like half sheet of paper, and it's written there that there is like, there is no term, so he's not a chief for like 4 years. And it's just like forever, or if Kaczynski will change his mind, then without showing any reason, he can be any day he can be expelled from this position, and he's dependent directly to the Minister of Treasury. So this is the only country that public media belong are dependent directly to the government. So they are like not independent in any way, in any sense, by law, by practice, by anything. So,
but why? I mean, to do what? To create like a new mass, or what is the intention? Why not within the framework of democracy?
The intention is like this. I think that Kaczynski. This is interesting phenomenon. Kaczynski lost 8 elections in a row. 8 elections it's really like a lot.
Also and the presidential election, didn't he run for it?
I'm not like, yeah, of course, including this one. Really, 8 elections in a row before he won, eventually. So he was defeated, beaten many times. And his power was never questioned in a party. No one really or if it was, then he expelled those guys. They thought that they're gonna create a party. Then they realized that there is no life apart from Kaczynski on the right side of the scene, which is very true. So he doesn't have supporters, he doesn't have voters, he has believers. But to have believers, you need to indoctrinate people for years, really. He has Catholic Church, which is the best institution for indoctrination. And this is state in the state in Poland. It's the richest institution. It's not controlled by the state. You don't know how many finances they have. It's not regulated, or it's regulated, but in a sense that you can't control it. This is the main regulation. So he could have this iron electorate that has 25% of people. Then, so you need 10 more to win election, okay? So the game is about this 10% of the people, or 15, okay? 25 he has, but if he will have only 25, because people will be angry on the way how they rule in Poland, why they're taking over media, doing all these things, and of course those politicians, he having this full comfort of power, having a president, having the majority in the parliament, majority in Senate, everything, surprisingly decided to take the most controversial, the most really crazy politicians on the top positions in the government. He could take really more moderate people with the bigger support in the society. He took guys like Macierewicz, the guy who Macierewicz was not only had this anti-Semite moment in his biography, but it was perceived by 75% of Poles someone who is really crazy, just clinically, okay? Someone who is for sure not just regular politician, okay? And he is a minister of defense. A minister of defense, really. So, but if you think
he was suggesting creating an exile army.
This is the leader of the Smolensk, the Smolensk families and the Smolensk movement that thinks that it was Russia and Tusk. Okay, so actually a few days ago he said that we are the biggest victim of terrorist attack in modern Europe, because Paris or something compared to what happened in Smolensk when Russia asked, so we are the terrorists, you think? Yeah, of course they are, but not because they did this in Smolensk, because they didn't do it. So this guy is the Minister of Defense now in Poland. But if you think about it twice, then you understand that actually it's not that stupid. Why? Because this guy will do everything what Kaczynski will say. If Kaczynski will say put the soldiers on the streets now, he will do it. Other politicians, more moderate or regular, normal politician would really say I don't want to have anything with this. Put another minister, order him the same thing, and then.
You're talking about civil war now.
I don't know. No, I'm not saying that it's gonna be there. But if you think what could be the pragmatic reason of having politicians like this, or Waszczykowski, who is anti-diplomat, someone who is who cannot say one sentence without saying something really swearing about you, or saying that you're stupid, that you left lewactwo, which is he said Venice Commission is the leftist lawyers that did something. However,
he's the guy who is the enemies of bikers and the vegetarians.
Yeah. So every second day he says something like this. Yeah, so this kind of guy is the Minister of Foreign Affairs. So but it's not that in PiS you don't have more normal politicians. Of course you have. Why Waszczykowski is a foreign minister? So actually people see it, and also supporters of PiS see it. So Kaczynski must consider the fact that he will lose a part of this support that he got, not 37, but 25 soon. So then I think he will like go to the second step. The second step would be when you have all those institutions, then you can start indoctrination, okay? Like to work on this like 10-15% of swing votes, okay? By education, by culture, by media, creating this like Vergangenheitspolitik is very important in Poland. So they are making movies, big things like about they create new symbols because solidarity is too general. Warsaw Uprising doesn't work anymore. So like this, however it works, of course, still. So they now invented invented partly because it is based on some facts, no question about it. But like the symbol on it and the message from it that like you should be like those guys who didn't accursed soldiers, so the soldiers that didn't want to stop to fight in 1945, they decided to go to the Fosters and fight with the communists. Well,
we had this topic when Zygmunt Bauman was here, but that's different, yes.
Yeah, actually Zygmunt Bauman was on the other side.
Yeah.
But like, of course, like it works like kind of a totem, okay? You don't think about, you don't discuss history, you don't have like more complicated truth about like, Poles were very good soldiers, but of course we had some, some bloody moments in our history with Jews, with Ukrainians, but this kind of thing would be like blaming Poland for what we didn't do, or like showing abroad a bad picture about Poland, and so on and so on. So they don't accept it. You have to say only good things about Poland, otherwise you're a traitor. And but of course it works if you're 20 or 22. You want to be like a soldier, or like 18, or like you want to belong to a community. And if it is the only really working community, and it's supported also by the state or schools or something, you can go to it. So actually the people who are in their 20s are with Kaczynski. You don't have them on the demonstrations. Most of them belong to right side. And it was always like this in Polish history, nothing really surprising. The National Democrats, so Endecja, the party of nationalists in 30s, for example, had the biggest support among the young people. Nothing really surprising, I mean, if you know Polish identity. But then,
why is that?
Well, Polish identity was built in 19th century, like modern identity. If you went through partitions, 10 big uprisings, you lost big part of your population in fight. You were fighting through all this century, and then again 1918, 1939 and 45. If you look at the pictures of Warsaw, 96% of the infrastructure, Warsaw looks like shit because it was, it was destroyed by Nazis, then rebuilt by communists, so two big things that really are bad, like in our history. So then if you're like 18 or 16, the only actually identity that is proposed is this kind of military identity. And I'm not talking only about these guys who would like to be like a scouts, but like soldiers. It works everywhere, it works even in a culture, and it's not that stupid, it's pretty pragmatic, because what was needed in this part of the world with the so bad geography between Russia and Germany, where soldiers were really needed. So we, Serbs, this kind of nations, the identity is more or less based on the axis of either you are a traitor or a hero. Okay, there are two possibilities, and you have to go to one of these. Okay, if you complicate too much, if you if you discuss too much, if you think too much, even, it works against the army cannot think too much. The army cannot discuss the orders. Okay.
But I'm wondering what you're saying, that you.
I'm saying this because Miłosz was fighting with this, for example.
Either you're a traitor or a hero, and somehow you're describing the current situation rather similar. Either you are with peace or you are not. So I'm wondering, where are the other antagonism in society? I mean, in a political debate, we know it from Western Europe. For example, you have the left, that is, of course, like you have a problem with the left, with the post-communists and so on.
But we are not Western Europe.
Yeah, that's my point. So you don't have this antagonism left and right, a materialist policy and conservative policy. Are they all swallowed up by peace? I mean, like
they are swallowed by the bad memories from communism. I mean, to be a left after 6 years of communism, it's not really the same thing as to be a part of SPD, you know, in Germany, in West Germany. So like the construction of the political scene is different. Still, you have, of course, everywhere the political scene is like being. Like, you know, the differences among parties are disappearing. They are more or less, you know, not the same maybe, but similar. And if you live in the world that is economically globalized and politics that it's not globalized at all, and even EU is renationalization, you know, goes through the, you know, not to integration, but come back to our nations and nation policy. It's hard to be a left and right because, you know, financial markets will push every politician, no matter if you're right or left, to more or less the same economic policy. So it works for this kind of Gleichschaltung of politicians everywhere, also in Poland. But you had still right and left, and you still have right and left. We had right and wrong in Eastern Europe, and almost nowhere you have left-wing parties. Or if you had, there are post-communists. If you have post-communist party, this is not really a leftist party because they're neoliberal, conservative, and so on. So really, I mean, it's a different thing, and we have also different experiences from the, you know, historical experiences. We have different social capital than in the Western culture, even different religion very often. But so there are many factors that put our politics on a little bit different road. So you have also a problem with illiberalization of democracy because of different reasons, like refugees. We don't have any refugees in Poland, and we won't have probably because of Kaczynski. We are like 100% of the same people, homogeneous country. We don't have. We're not a part of Euro. We didn't have recession in Poland, so Polish economy is not that bad. Actually, it's in a good shape, so he can really. So Kaczynski can take advantage of it. And this is the second step after this taking over institutions. He will put indoctrination from the up, from like, you know, to our heads, but in the same time he will transfer money to our pockets or, you know, stomachs. And this is what he started to do. For the first time in modern Polish history, families would get cash if they have children. So, and it's a cash, and if you look how the salaries looks like, and the salaries, like the average salary in Poland is like a little bit less than 1,000 euro. So it's especially now with this exchange rate. But 75% of people earn less. So the statistics is cheating you. If 75%, and so then it's better not to look to the average salary, but dominant salary. And dominant, which is the most frequently earned money, and this is around like 200 to 2,000. So it's, I would say, like how much it would be, like, I don't know, yeah, about 500 euros. So if they will give you for each child 100 something or like 120 euro, then it's a big thing, okay? If you get like 250, for example, and you earn like,
of your
it's not a revolution in your pocket, but it's really close to it, okay? So people will think twice well, they will go to the ballot. However, Poles will probably think that they like it already belongs to them and they deserved it, and so like Polish peasants, they are the biggest beneficiaries of EU, but they still like think that EU is not really the big friend to them. So he has advantages, he has strong points, but it can be like in Hungary, that not necessarily Orban is so strong now, but the opposition is destroyed.
Yeah, talking about the opposition, maybe you can give us some ideas on the opposition that is actually already formed and is as I understood, forming, also elaborating, going on the streets, making demonstrations. It's called the Committee for Defense of Democracy.
This is, yeah, this was surprising.
No. But maybe you can also say, I mean, your organization is much older, but you're taking part in the protests. Right. What is this group that is forming there?
Actually, you have like 3 or 4 places where the opposition lives. So, or like that counterbalances Kaczynski party. The first fight was in media. I mean, because when they started to paralyze Constitutional Court, when they started to pass the law about this surveillance, so they have full access to your private information, the police can have, without the permission of the court. And they also passed another really bills that you don't want to have in regular liberal democracy. And then, so of course, media and private media are strong in Poland. They attack, they criticized it strongly, really strongly. And it was, I'm not sure if it was efficient, but they were a little bit scared about it because it was a huge critic. Because like the good thing about the market in Poland was that it created very strong sector of private media that still are interested in politics and having like a pretty good political comment. So like the Polish information TV is very strong, and it's, I would say that it's really well done. And this and some other and public media until they were taken over were really criticizing the part. So media is one thing, and still there is like a fight. So me as a political commentator, I have this like I feel that I'm in this struggle, because the struggle is not anymore between like right party and left party, or this party or another party. Kaczynski like withdrew from this fight and started a fight with democracy, or with liberal democracy. So it's not politics anymore, it's kind of anti-politics, or it's fight to have regular, normal politics. So this is why journalists, political commentators are engaged or involved, because they're fighting for the freedom of speech, freedom of media, freedom of independent media. Because they're not only taking over public media, but they try to push owners of the private media, and they are trying to also do these things. So the media is one area. Then another area that is the most dangerous for them is, of course, our streets. And they were surprised when they saw 50,000 people spontaneously entering the streets. And it's not one time, but if the last big demonstration had like 80,000. You know, for Poland it may look like nothing because 40 million people. So come on, like what is 80,000? However, those demonstrations were also in 30 other cities. So taken together, it would be like 100, maybe 200,000 people. So it's still not a lot. In Hungary, 2011, when Fidesz was taking over, or like changing a law about media, public media, you had 300,000, and Hungary is 10 million people, so it would be like a million and something in Poland. So you can say that it cannot like really change situation, but first time in Polish history after 1989, you saw people that are not on the right-wing demonstration, and they are spontaneously coming. Really.
Is this really true? I've read it in the newspaper, but I was not sure about like 26 years, no manifestation of.
Well, there are manifestations, but rather to prove how weak they are, because it's like 3,000 at most. Okay. I mean, non-right-wing, because like the March of Independence can like. With the ultra fan idiots, then like those football supporters that are ultras, they can have like even 50,000. but it's not a regular spontaneous demonstration. Yeah, and Kaczynski can organize, but then it's organized by Catholic Church, party, and then so like you need like 1,000, you know, buses, and then they put people. But here, so this, and this is the only thing that he's afraid of, the streets, because and every dictatorship is afraid of the streets, and only the streets. And the third thing is the international reaction. Like Venice Commission, EU, Brussels, Berlin, but actually they are neglecting all of those. They are only afraid of Washington, because Washington is a symbol in Poland, because like, you know, SPD didn't care too much about Polish solidarity, and like, I mean that we had the help from regular normal people. We had like a lot of charity in the 80s from like, you know, people got a lot of support from German families, Dutch families, French families, and so on. But people are aware that it was the fight between United States and Soviet Union. So Reagan is a symbol in Poland rather than, I don't know, like, you know, some like, you know, German or French politicians.
Or Brussels.
Yeah, or Brussels, for example. But so, and also, of course, we live next to Russia, so we know that we can count only on NATO or Washington. You know, EU doesn't have any army, so of course it's misleading, because still, like, we should have the best possible relations with Berlin, and we destroyed it. It works against Poland. It's a stupid policy. Now they decided to have one big ally, and it's London. I don't know if London even knows that it's not a big ally, you know. But they, you know, Great Britain, like, what kind of common interest we can have with Great Britain? They are an island. They have nuclear weapons. They're free. Like, they never had any fascists in their history. You know, they can actually Brexit. It's not so stupid if you are an island. You can save yourself. You have the language of the world. And you never had this, like, you know, EU was built on our nightmares from the war, but they never had any Germans on their land, or never had any Russian soldiers or whatever. Okay, so they can do this kind of stuff, but we can't. We should have best possible, you know, the guarantee of Polish independence. It's not Kaczynski, but it's EU. Okay.
But maybe let's get back to the second step. You were mentioning the streets.
I mentioned media, streets, and international institutions, like Brussels or Washington.
So on the street level, I've seen some. I was wondering. I've seen some pictures. You sent me some pictures from the demonstrations. I think it was in Krakow, was it Warsaw? I'm not quite sure where you spoke. And what I understood is that there are a lot of Polish flags. Actually, that's new to me for, let's say, left liberal manifestations. Also, the founder of the Committee of Defense for Democracy said in an interview for Krytyka Polityczna, we have to become one nation again. So that's interesting to me for having so much importance on the nation state in a discussion of what seems to be.
I would say it's a comeback of pathos.
Pathos.
And actually, this is what we need. Because, like, we had irony. If you're gonna be liberal ironists, we'll always lose with the determined nationalists. Come on.
But it is a little bit irritating. You have two sides, and you have the right wing and the left wing. So you call it a left wing, or
you have
left ideas.
You have Democrats and anti-Democrats now on the streets, more or less. Or actually,
but both sides claim to be this one Poland, this one nation, this to come back together. Or the right wing has the same pathos, or?
Like no. Pathos is that no. Come on. We just want to show that we have the same rights. Because what they try to do is they say we are the worst sort of Poles. This is one of the slogans. Worst sort of Poles.
Oh, okay.
And that we are not really real Poles. Okay, so people are coming with their flags and saying, guys, we're Poles. This country is our country as well. Okay. but it's a different message than saying we are for big Poland or something, right? No, so you don't have these sentiments at all. They are very peaceful demonstrations. You don't have like no nationalists, and if they're like, if someone is saying that we want to be one nation, again, it's this kind of political bullshitting, like what it means one nation. I agree with you, but it's not any nationalist sentiments on it, and it's not received by this kind of nationalist thing. What is good is that people started to sing national anthem. You know, people started to sing some like pathetic songs. However, no religious. This is good. But this is actually, you know, the problem with demonstrations, not right-wing demonstrations, was that we were atomized, individualized. We couldn't get together. If you don't have common songs, common rituals, common flags, common symbols, you will never create a strong political body to win with guys. And it doesn't mean that you need to take uniforms, military uniforms, or start to think about, like, you know, big Poland or something. They're totally not like this. They rather refer to solidarity movement. So they use the same, the same graphics and so on. So like even the name Defense Democracy Committee comes from the Defense Workers Committee, the first overground institution in the communist, you know, part of the world that emerged 1976 to defend workers, and it was Kuron and Modzelewski. Yeah, actually not Modzelewski, but Jacek Kuron was the leader of it, and actually Macierewicz, the guy whom I mentioned as a crazy guy. So, but you know, to do things like this in a communism, you had to be a little bit crazy, you know. So there are some crazy people in Solidarity, of course, as well. Yeah, so like they rather referring to this kind of patriotism, but not at all to any stupid nationalism, you know. So no worries, no worries.
So also traditional symbols of resistance.
Just symbols, you know. I mean, come on, we are Poles. We cannot hide it, you know. This is our flag, man. Like, I would prefer to have like Kiribati. They have, you know, more interesting one, but we have not this one.
The other symbols that were shown were, of course, the flag of the European Union. This is the third way you were mentioning, so the pressure from outside on Poland.
There's a lot of Euro enthusiasm. Probably we're the most, well, if you look at the statistics, Poland is the most Euro enthusiastic country in EU. I think still, and yeah, absolutely, more than 70% people are pro-EU. So you don't have any anti-EU party, in a sense that like we should go out from EU, we should like, you know, divorce with Brussels or so on. They are fighting, but they are saying rather that we would like to have more funds, or we would like to do some, like, but they would never risk saying that like we don't want to have EU or we don't want to be in EU. We get the biggest funds from EU, so they would be really stupid to do it.
So also the PiS-government is not doesn't drive an anti-EU policy.
They do, but it's not like open anti-EU course. Of course, they like, you know, they're trying to not only ignore Brussels, but like putting it in bad colors. And they yeah, of course they do it. Like, so this is why I said like they only are scared, they're only afraid of Washington. And actually Washington, because okay, let's say one more important thing. What Kaczynski is destroying is not really democracy, it's liberalism. Because democracy answers the question who rules, or it's more or less about elections. If they are free and honest, then and they were free and honest, and he won this, okay? Nowhere is written that democracy must be liberal, okay? But the things like rule of law, independent media, freedom of speech, all of it is the rules of political liberalism, and it's not that there is like Jungteam between those two things, okay? There were many, theoretically even, totalitarian democracy is also possible when demos is controlling fully demos, okay? When demos is organizing a prison for demos, okay? Theoretically it's possible because liberalism answers different question. How much freedom you get in disorder, okay? So what they're doing is that they are like...
I'm sorry, but I can't really follow that because, I mean, authoritarian democracy would first of all make sure there's no longer any elections, so then you can't talk of a democracy.
Yeah, I'm saying that totalitarian democracy is theoretically possible, but authoritarian not really, because the opposite to, well, actually the totalitarianism is opposition to liberalism. The opposition to democracy is authoritarianism. So democracy, demos is ruling, so like everybody is ruling. In authoritarian democracy, one party or a group of people or oligarchs or something. Here you are right. But the thing is that, and of course, like, if you, you know, political liberalism can help you defend the democracy or sustain democracy, of course. But actually, if you have the permission from the society to break some rules of liberalism, like constitutional court, then it does, well, okay. In the very classical text of Farid Zakaria, that is called Illiberal, of the Rise of Illiberal Democracy, he's mentioning one good example. Richard Holbrooke, 1997 or 1996, after the war in Yugoslavia, asked interesting question. What will be in the country that had fully honest elections? Like honest, free, equal, you know, like all the rules, you know, following all the rules. In a country that is like, then the entire population is full of racists, nationalists, chauvinists, and so on. Would it be liberal democracy at the end of the day? Not necessarily. To have liberal democracy, you need liberals. Okay, and probably we don't have so many liberals in Poland, or like we need a...
That's the problem with authoritarian, because you know, it doesn't, in my understanding, include democracy. I mean, I wouldn't connect these two terms. Illiberal, yes, but authoritarian, no.
Yeah, I agree. I agree, but you know, what they do now is they are like attacking the rule of law, but it doesn't mean that we will not have elections. I'm not saying that I'm so naive to say that, of course, if Kaczynski will get like 10% in public polls, I would think that, I would be afraid that he will say that he doesn't like elections anymore and he will change something like this. Then of course, I wouldn't say that it's impossible, because I thought that what is impossible was to attack Constitutional Court. This was like, this is really surprising. I mean, everybody is surprised in Poland, more or less. No one really expected it. And even supporters of peace. There were some people saying it's a creeping coup d'etat. But the people who said, like, you exaggerate, come on, like, don't think that they're really fascists, because they're not. Unfortunately, they're maybe not fascists, but they're really like close to it. So, yeah, so more or less it's and Washington actually, because we have summit, NATO summit 2016 in July, and we're fighting for having like bigger support from NATO. That is very rational policy. If you have the war 1,000 kilometers from your place, and if you have like Putin in Moscow, that probably Putin is more liberal than 80% of Russians, but still, like, you really need this support, and we are really afraid of it. And of course, but no one will give a serious weapon. If you have Macierewicz, you can like use it next time to destroy Petersburg.
Well, maybe
okay?
Trump.
This is another story, of course. This is another story. But of course, I'm afraid that they will lose something in these relations with Washington. And actually, Washington is pushing. So like there was a few days ago, Kaczynski met with the American ambassador, and they quarreled, which never happens. Kaczynski was very angry after this discussion.
In public.
No, come on, no, this is not. But it really, you know, Americans are cynical. They never fight openly with like, you know, this kind of stuff. They don't do it, and they don't need it. But come on, Poland is not, you know, Turkey that you really need to have a country like Turkey is like. What's the name of this big ship that has planes? Yeah, so this is the biggest American probably equipment like this, but and in an important region. We are also in an important region now. It's a fragile, sensitive place, but we are not Turkey, where that has authoritarian government and it's not really trusted politically, but probably trusted still militarily. But like politicians like Victoria Nuland used to come with informal visits to see governments, and Victoria Nuland is third most important American politician in foreign policy. She's like she's the deputy of Kerry actually. So they really like. I mean, Americans are more determined than I expected, and actually even EU is more determined than we expected. They will not defend us on behalf of us. But they're helping for sure.
But they can feel secure because, as you mentioned, the foreign policy is not that important for Kaczynski, so he's still online, if you want to put it that way. I mean, in terms of foreign policy of the European Union, it's taking part in the, I don't know, negotiations with Turkey and so on. Still is a war against Russia. So is the European Union really interested in, you know, getting involved?
Maybe I should put it in a different way, because foreign policy is important as long as it can be useful for internal policy. So if we will organize the, you know, Kulturkampf with Berlin, and it can be used to mobilize your electorate, then of course it can be interesting, you know, for Kaczynski. And I think this is how it is used. So you're organizing symbolic wars with like Angela Merkel, and in a moment when she really needs our help. You know, our biggest allies in last like decade was Merkel and the European Commission. So actually Berlin and Europe, and now we're like treating them really like it's a Dolchstoß for Angela Merkel when she really needs help now. So it's really stupid policy, and I'm really angry that we have it and we do it now. But because we're Poles, you Germans, we have to fight, so we will fight. You know. I mean, it's not my cup of tea.
So maybe another question: why is the committee not turning into a political party, or would it be wise? Because you
no, it will lose all support. It's strong as long as it's not a political party.
Yeah, like Solidarność.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. Exactly, and it can have different people. It can have like people that like have different ideas, different. Then you are a friend of everybody, more or less, if you're a social movement. You can have much bigger support. And actually you are like someone that, if you attack political party, people understand it. If you attack social movement, then it's really unlegitimate. People
how to get rid of Kaczynski and PiS? If you have to beat him in the...
That's a good question. That probably
boxing ring of party...
at the end of the day, you need parties to win elections, of course. But this is a problem. This is actually, I have no good answer, because parties that you have, we have like the biggest two parties that are in the opposition. One is the party that was ruling Poland for eight last years, but it's in depression, and I can't believe that it's go up, because like if you lost, and you lost this way, and you don't have leaders that used to win elections before, and then actually Kaczynski can always organize show trials, and he has pretexts to organize it.
Show trials?
Yeah, so for example, there was a big scandal of like bugging scandal, because the waiters recorded politicians, they were swearing, they were like do some politics and some cheating, you know, at the table, and they were like top politicians. Not Tusk, but like next to Tusk, like really big names. They can, and of course when Poles heard it, what they're talking about, how they're talking about, Poles do the same thing, but they don't want their politicians to behave like regular people, okay? They want politicians to be like gods from Olymp, I don't know. But so when they saw that they are swearing, they didn't accept it, okay? So So actually, what you can have now, 2 years of, you know, showing the tapes in public media, and you will hear again and again and again. So the party, like Civic Platform, can be easily pacified this way. And also they can organize, and actually they started to organize a Smolensk commission to arrest people even like Tusk. They have full control on policy, they have full control on persecution. The Minister of Justice can say to each persecutor what to do, and can inform about each investigation openly. So what was illegal before, now they legalized.
What means that he was a spy for the communists for himself?
Yeah.
Yeah,
but it's actually not untrue, you know, it's true. Well, not a spy, but he was like a former. No, they're like historians, they approved this. And the historians that don't belong.
Not during the time of transition, long time before. How it looks with Wałęsa. Wałęsa was a young worker, not like, you know, part of intelligentsia, in early 70s. So like he begins cooperation like 300 other workers in the shipyard after the big crackdown of the shipyard. And like a year before, communists killed 41 people, beaten 1,000 and put to prison 3,000. Okay, so it was huge massacre in Gdańsk. So it was easy to push some regular normal people, just regular workers with those young families, you know, children and everything, to like, you know, and actually Wałęsa has had this character. Wałęsa is very like extremely egocentric guy. So he really believed that he will say to, you know, to the state authorities what they should do, because he knows and they don't know. Okay, and so he really like this is like he always says I defeated communists, not America, not John Paul II. It was me. I am the solidarity. Okay, so this is this kind of guy, and so like so you can say that he was an informer for sure. However, Wałęsa still says no, and like you have 500 pages of really like authentic proofs that he really like did this. Yeah, a lot. Like the materials are the file is thick, but it doesn't mean that he's a bad guy. That he's not a symbol anymore. That he was not a leader. He behaved very correctly in the hardest moments of 1982, 3, and so on. So he was a hero. But he was also just normal man, and normal people, 1971, could do the same thing rationally, without even thinking that it's a very bad thing, you know. There was no opposition who would defend them. There was no defense workers committee at that time, and so on. So you cannot say that it's not true, but you cannot also blame him that like he doesn't exist anymore in Polish history.
But can't be fabricated or false, those documents, as he said,
not in this scale. Like people like Andrzej Friczke, so the most honest historians who are totally on the opposite side of Kaczyński, are saying that's authentic. I mean, no question about it. So like, and there is no serious historian who would say no, it's not. Well, there are historians who are saying we should wait for the full graphology service, and then we will. But actually, they are rather defending the Werkstatt, the rules of historiography, rather than they are defending Wałęsa.
Gibt's noch andere Fragen?
Well, you put a point that there are a lot of differences between Poland and Hungary. But nevertheless, I would point out that one thing which is very common between those two countries, and even to some more former Eastern European countries, that from the Western point of view, in our media, we distinguish between the liberals, which are pro-European, and the conservatives,
which are nationalists and so on. Yeah? But we have also to remark that these Western liberals, which are pro-minorities, pro-sexual minorities, which want to take over some refugees, they are totally neoliberals. They doesn't point out any thought about social situation, and the conservatives, as Orban, for example, in Hungary, some of his measures, he could be an honorary member of ATTAC when he is taxing great companies, when he is making social this money for families you mentioned in Poland. It's really a social thing which the former government didn't thought about it. So isn't it a little bit too easy to see also only the good liberal pro-European versus the bad conservative, and not talking about social situation, not talking about social about economy and income policy and so on?
I think what you want to say is that the left has a problem that because it has like the leftist elect or the potentially left-wing supporters are in two groups that are in discrepancy, that are contradictory, because the people whom you would like to represent, like workers, are extremely conservative by cultural issues, and on the other hand, like sexual minorities, and other things, like cultural issues, like the people that would support it are pretty liberal economically, especially in Eastern Europe. Okay, so it's hard to connect them, because if you put first the things that are like for social security, then you will lose support from like some feminists or like middle class people that are much more open when it comes to EU or cultural issues. That is extremely big problem, how to connect those groups. And this is why actually left cannot really emerge in this country.
Why would you lose feminist liberal groups?
Well, no, feminists.
While pointing out
in 90s, most of the feminists were pretty neoliberal, because they thought that liberalism in economy and liberalism, sexual liberalism and economic liberalism is like comes from the same thing. But then they switched. Like if you want to be feminist in Poland, more or less, you cannot be neoliberal at the same time. But like we're talking about the activists. But if you look at the supporters, like the middle class, probably is the most economically liberal group in Poland. And if you look at the supporters of PiS, they are probably the most like with the white working class in America. So they are conservative, but in the same time they are members of trade unions, and they are like. They would support the policy that it's social democratic. So this is a problem of every social democracy, and especially in our countries. Like in the country, this is why you don't have really. So like for example, there is a new party on the left scene. It's called Razem. However, it's doing Razem means together. However, they're doing everything alone. Exactly because they don't want to join liberals or no-liberals, and they don't want to scare the supporters of PiS that are like very conservative, but they are really the people that the really left-wing party would like to represent. So this is why they have a problem, like how to find their place in the political scene. Because the people who voted for them, they got actually not bad result, 3.6 in elections. However, the other party that was also brand new got 7.7, and it's now the second most important party, and it's done by the child of Balcerowicz, so the most neoliberal politician. So it shows you that it's easier to be neoliberal than to be integral social democrat. But even with this support, those 3.6 came from the top class people. Like, so like it came from the well-educated people from big cities, rich families, and mostly young or like 30s, in their 30s. So when they they decided not to join these big demonstrations as a party. The members are coming, but the party is not, because they think like we have a distance, because like we saw too many politicians from the previous parties in the demonstrations or so on. But actually they supported, they lost big part of their support, and support in media also, because the people who voted for them were exactly on those streets in those demonstrations, so they couldn't understand them. It shows you how hard it is to be left-wing politically, like especially if you want to build party. This is why Krytyka never decided to build a party, but first to change the attitudes in the society.
I have a question regarding the demonstrations, because if you say that this means that fans
Macierewicz.
So it means that it's
remember this name.
Yeah, dangerous. I mean, aren't you worried that something similar may happen as in Istanbul? That at first, you have peaceful demonstrations and like in Gezi Park, and then the police comes in, and I mean, now you have no more demonstrations, or hardly any.
If in Poland they will start to beat or do things like this, they will lose in 3 days or like in 3 months.
Okay. That's rich.
Why?
Because we're fighters.
Heroes.
No, the thing is that like people will not accept it, even the people who support peace. Like the violence is too much. And people saw too much violence. Solidarity was strong because it was anti-violence movement.
And what's the frequency now of demonstrations? Are they regular?
They need to have an issue, of course. So, like to defend Wałęsa, 80,000 people went on the street. Wałęsa, extremely bad president, most embarrassing public person in Poland, and people still went to defend him as a symbol, because Kaczyński, of course, would use this chance to not only to overcome Wałęsa, but to overcome 1989. He doesn't have big heroes from Solidarity in the party. This is why he needs this Accords soldiers symbol. If he doesn't have it, he was 4th League member of Solidarity. He was never in prison or something. People are laughing at him that he was sleeping, until the noon when there was people, he's from this point of view, his brother was a serious oppositionist, but not he. So of course he would like to if he cannot be a hero, he would like to at least disqualify other heroes. This is why people went on the street, not necessarily to defend Wałęsa, but to defend the truth about the history.
Is there a renaissance of Piłsudski?
Yeah, the name is Kaczyński. No, Piłsudski was
military.
Well, but
Kaczyński is everything else than a military.
No, but listen, Piłsudski was much more with much bigger personality. He was really the guy who was extremely charismatic and had really big advantages and big achievements, very big. He won a war with Bolsheviks. He defended your Western Europe. You would have here communists. You will speak Russian, if not Piłsudski. But of course, in 30s, he turned to authoritarianism, almost every country except for Czechoslovakia and France. So of course he's controversial figure, but not for Poles. And Kaczyński, actually, the people in the members of his party are saying to him Naczelnik, so commander, Piłsudski used to be called, but it's more like a joke. But I think they are serious, unfortunately.
And this person is not...
excuse me, there is another question.
Whose person?
Window.
Piłsudski?
Yeah.
No, he is, but well, it's hard to be compared to him, like, seriously, because he was really a big guy. Like Kaczynski and Piłsudski, it's more like a joke, like taken together. So I don't think that even Kaczynski would be happy to be compared like this. And the thing is that, well, this is an interesting topic, but we had like one of the Polish very important intellectuals said that there are two coffins that are still ruling Poland: Piłsudski and Dmowski. Dmowski was a founder of this National Democratic Party, of this Endecja, this nationalists. Okay, and but PiS actually is like a, like the mixture of those. Because PiS, it's not really a conservative party. We had a beautiful tradition of Polish conservatism, but Polish conservatism, which was actually Austrian, strongly influenced by Austrians, and like those guys from Krakow that were prime ministers in Austria or like ministers, those guys were not nationalists. They were conservatists, and but the two most important things for them was state and the law. So they were the last people who would attack the law, okay? Who would attack the legal order, okay? So actually they are not really conservatives. They are nationalists or like clerical nationalists, okay? So, and Piłsudski is exactly the opposite of it. So they would like to be like, they would take form of Piłsudski and the content of Dmowski, probably, like to put it this way. Or to put it another way, what Piłsudski did, he tried to save Poland from nationalists, but sacrificing democracy. And what Kaczynski tries to do is to save Poland. He thinks that he's saving Poland, sacrificing political liberalism. So it's like the reverse, or like it's something that is, it's like kind of this coup d'etat also, but in a little bit different axis, okay, in a little bit different direction. But I don't think that, however, history plays an extremely important role in Poland. It's the top one topic in countries like Austria, Germany, Israel, Poland. History would always be in the center of the political debate, but like, there are not simple connections to the previous era of politics in Poland.
But
I was just wondering, your comments, which you just made, were sort of related to what I'm asking. It seems to me that Kaczynski is driven by hate and revenge and retribution. He's obsessed with history. And you mentioned his project, the Kaczynski project. What is his ultimate goal? What does he want Poland to stand for, where he's training up all these people in the next phase?
Well,
what's the positive aspect of the Polish identity?
Well, if it is based on emotions and resentments, then you don't have goal, and you don't need a goal. You need drives. You need to have this fuel. So I'm not sure if he has this ultimate goal. And actually, like, no one really knows what is in his head, because no one talks to him normally. Well, actually, it's not a joke, unfortunately, He doesn't have any partner relations with anybody. He doesn't have normal, like, human, social relations. He has soldiers, and that's it,
Is he the one living with his mother?
No, the mother died, the brother died, the cat even died, so he's really alone. I mean, it's a poor guy, I mean, I have some sympathy to him, but well, unfortunately, he rules Poland, I mean, so I'm sorry, but like I'm not in his head. It's hard to say. I'm afraid that this question is extremely important, and it's very hard to find an answer to it. Because, like, you know, what the problem is that he's like struggling with Brussels, with Berlin, with Moscow in the same time. So it's really doesn't. I don't see any rational, you know, calculation in it.
Everything's negative.
More or less, except for London. For some reason, you know, he was never in London. You know, he was never abroad almost. Like, you know. He was a few times, of course. Yeah.
Just as a sideline, and what is the Catholic Church doing about it? What's their attitude?
Nothing.
Just
Do they
enjoying.
support him, or do they
Well, of course they support him, but he doesn't need any support now if he has everything. You know. But yeah, they don't do nothing. You know. They're praying for us. You know.
There are no fractions, different.
No,
leader?
not anymore. Radio Maria has majority in the Polish episcopate.
That's it.
Unfortunately.
An Austrian journalist called it Marienfaschismus in Poland.
They are more like, you know, I wouldn't say that they are fascists. They are like extremely corrupted rather. The guys are good businessmen, you know.
Yeah, this is cool. Yeah.
So it's more like this. I don't think that they are even really anti-Semites. I mean,
Oh.
I don't think, well, it's,
Racist,
they had, the racist, yes. Like, so for example, this, but actually the Catholic Church had the most like beautiful attitude to refugees, but they stopped it, probably because Kaczynski didn't like it. But they started with like announcements that were very pro-refugee policy, but they never continue it. They were no consequent. They have very strong influence on politics, but they didn't use it to. But they, you know, Catholic Church, like, I don't know you can't hear them when it comes to the debate about unemployment or poverty. They always talk about gender, in vitro abortion. You know, there are their topics for that.
But is it because you think that they are profiting from the situation now? So
for sure. Radio Maria got 26 million for like this, you know, for something. Then another, we built like something that looks like a machine to do the fresh juice. You know, we have like the biggest church now. Like it will be bigger than everything. In Warsaw, and they got another money, and they are building because it's so huge and so ugly. So they're building it and building and building and building, and it's still far from the end. So they still need money, and they're getting this, you know, all the time.
Their university, has it any importance?
He has actually this act of terrorism that Waszczykowski said was a lecture in this Radio Maria University in Podium. It's private university, but they have like other universities also. They're very strong when it comes to infrastructure. They own 60% of Krakow, so it's really like, and of course like Catholic Church is really strong in Poland.
60% of what?
Kraków city. Nice city, very nice.
Yeah, of the Immobilien?
Yeah. I stayed, yeah.
Well, now concerning your question, whether there's something positive, or like what could be the vision of Kaczynski? Right. Well, obviously he, correct me if I'm wrong, because I'm actually sitting here, just reading, news from my country.
Because I need some more.
But in fact, what happened is that PiS, so his party, took over the electorate of anti-establishment parties, so the cookies, whatever, there was around the elections, in autumn. There was a lot of very new and very unexpected movement that was going pretty much anti-PO, so neoliberalism. These are the people. These are the whole people with precarious jobs. So it's not the workers anymore. Precarious conditions. These are the very young people with no illusions that you know, that we can trust in Coca-Cola and things like this, because they're already completely lost, and they know that there's, you know, they're not taken care of by any politicians, and suddenly they voted for Kaczynski, and actually what he's proposing, I mean, taxing, you know, putting tax on major supermarkets, you know, big corporations.
But actually, they put it on every supermarket, so it's.
Yeah, but the majors are foreign companies.
Yes.
Okay.
But they put on every.
Yeah, okay, but.
So it works like no, but it's actually it works more against the regular. So this and actually they removed this.
They did. Okay. So see, I'm not completely informed. I just remember the postulate. So you know. There's the you know, the money for the families, so the 500 zloty, and I don't know, like it seems that a lot of these young people simply believe that this might be a future that is somehow, you know, within EU and somehow part of it, but then on the other hand, far away from a very superficial. You know, pushing little arguments about, well, do I ride a bike on the street, or, yeah, like, this is not politics really, and people are seriously bored with it. So I guess, you know, seeing Kaczynski actually, you know, fighting for something is quite important for these people. But, you know.
Well, he's fighting for Polish pride, but he hasn't defined exactly what it means. So he's like Trump.
Well, to big extent, although let's, I mean, what Sławomir mentioned, you know, there is this big myth of how Polish people are, and we are really still, and you feel it like every day, and kids are playing these games when they're small. We still remember that there was no country, so it's. You know, there is always, and this is also probably the success of all the movements that are going on the street and being against something. You know, because we just remember the situation where you know, we had to fight and we had to stand for something. So that's why probably it's sometimes hard to accept. You know, plurality of voices and you know, difficulties of minor political discussions, or you know, while you know, if someone has such a grand vision, you know, these people can believe. I don't know.
And when you all the time fight it with states, then it's hard to like. Yeah, but as you said, during partitions, the states were our enemies. So even if it's your state, still state has not best. There is no mythology of state, like that we are proud for our, because we have best civil servants, because we have best administration, because we have most efficient offices, lawyers and everything. Nothing like this. And it's easy to destroy it, like constitutional court. I think people just didn't realize that for the last 25 years, we had a constitutional court that was so strong because they controlled parties and parliament if it goes according to the constitution. So it was really like important body, but no one even really, like, of course we knew that they are like, we knew that it exists and it announces serious things. And the rulings of the Constitutional Court were sometimes a topic of the common discussion, but no one really knew how important is it. And now it was a big lesson of democracy and a big lesson of rule of law also, and what is the role of Constitutional Court. But when they paralyzed it, it's so easy for the next party to do the same thing or not to rebuild it or like also cheat with this. So it's so important, you know. So what I'm talking about is it's so hard to build the moral capacity or like to build a strong institution that is legitimized, that has, you know, big social support and that people really think that it's important, and it's so easy you can destroy it in 1 month. So the culture of American culture, or like, you know, Western European countries that had much better history, they built the mythology of state, or they built this like You know what I'm talking about? Like like you will think 3 times before you will destroy it. So there are some common things. You know, liberal democracy, the difference between illiberal and liberal democracy is that in liberal democracy, you have opponents, you know, adversaries, but you don't have like enemies. So in my country, big 2 parties are treating each other not like he's my enemy, he's enemy of my country. Okay, so what do you do with an enemy of your country? You would like to eliminate it, not defeat it in elections. It's not enough. You defeat it in elections, but then you would like to eliminate, because Kaczynski really thinks that they are attacking its country. He used to call Tusk party, or the Tusk government, condominium, Russian-German condominium. Come on, so it looks like an next partition, right? And actually, for me, Kaczynski is destroying my country as well, because he's really doing it, okay? So he's destroying my country because he works against security of my country. If he will continue his policy, NATO would never treat us seriously, and if NATO will not treat us seriously, these fuckers from, you know, Kreml will really attack not only Ukraine but Baltic states, or like, you know, we had...
attacking the European Union. I still think that's a right-wing notion. I mean, think of the state. Well, you know, the same thing happened here in the year 2000 with the, you know, coalition between the Al-Qaeda and the Conservatives. The term is Nestbeschmutzer, you know, that the people who were against it were against the country, were damaging the country and were doing bad things. And for me, that's totally right wing. I mean, that's it's, you know, it's just that's what we're in.
But you can be also left wing and destroy your country.
No. To say that, to, you know, if you're against me, you're an enemy of the nation. That's what I mean. Not.
Okay, you're right. Yeah, I agree with you. This is the problem, that like, you know, in liberal democracy you have, like, you know, I think that. However, it's changing in America even, you know, the Republicans and Democrats, do you remember that like a year or 2 ago,
live fights,
they were fighting, so the people couldn't get their like money, so they had to went on holidays, remember? So it was like, it worked like something that, they damaging, the fight is more important than the state, okay? So if it happens, then it's this threshold, this border between the difference between this liberal and illiberal democracy.
Yeah, and as you said, it's happening everywhere. It's also happening here.
I agree. So, like on your side, also you have this problem with illiberalization, and on our side as well. So, like these 2 parts of Europe for different reasons are doing the same thing.
I mean, I think the surface changed a lot. I was thinking of 2000, there also have been sanctions against Austria. And there were some in Austria that said they are okay, but they were under high pressure.
But actually,
from the press, even from the liberal press.
I know, because of the case of Austria, EU is like very defensive when it comes to any intervention. And this is why Orban could go so far. Orban cheated them easily. I think they learned from Austria and from Hungary 2 opposite things, and the synthesis will be like put to Poland. So, and I hope, because like they lost in Austria and they lost for opposite reason in Hungary, so they will try probably. What I would suggest is kind of a selective sanctions or selective policy. So like nothing which would be like a big one attack on the government, because people will react on it like, you know, counterproductively. But if they will do some, you know, concrete things like Venice Commission and so on, Venice Commission disqualified what they did in Poland. However, it was Waszczykowski who invited Venice Commission to Poland. And then they tried to, you know, say that they're stupid, you know, Venice. So then asked, why did you say that they're very important and serious? And now you're saying, but they are cheating. They say it like that, like, forget it. You had a question, yes?
No,
dear lady.
No, it was always very hard to understand for me how these people like this kind of people like these Autokraten and Orban or Erdogan or Kaczynski. What are their interests? Also, is is it like in Ubu Roi from by Alfred Jarry? He is a murder. He was. This is a play, a filter play. Do you know it from Alfred Jarry? Ubu Roi, König Ubu, the König from Poland. Poland?
Nowhere.
It's Poland. Sorry, I said Poland. And he's killing. He's murdering his
how
wife.
it begins?
Only
like
because
it's
for
it's in Poland that it's nowhere.
Yeah?
Something like that. Yeah.
And and it was written from by Alfred Jarry when he was 17 years old, and he was portraying his teacher. Yeah, because the teacher was the most brutal, cruel thing he could imagine. Yeah, and so this Ubu Roi, this King Ubu, was killing everyone, even his wife, only for a caprese code, or a caprese, something he desired. Yeah, and this Kaczynski and Erdogan and Orban, all these nationalists, Identitätspolitiker, they are rich, they have everything. Why do they? What kind of ideology is this? They are not. They are nationalists, but they are
unfortunately,
not
it's not about money.
Right.
If it would be about money, we will try to give him some money and get lost.
It's not the case with Kaczynski. He's not. I mean, Sławomir actually just.
Das weiß ich, deswegen frage ich ja, was ist der große Goal, was streitet? Ich verstehe es einfach nicht, ich möchte es einfach verstehen. Bei der FPÖ sagt man, das sind Räuber. Die haben sich alle bereichert daran. Wir wissen, die haben geplündert. Aber was ist das? Was ist das? Ich verstehe es nicht.
Das ist
maybe I'm naive, yeah. But
you want to answer the question, Paul?
Now it's getting exciting. So like about the psychology of the world leaders. I was kind of interested what you said before about nation building and the state that has to confine or trust into the institutions and into the whole stability of the state system, and that has been built up in Poland over the last 20 years. And
well, it's not. You cannot do it for 20 years. You have to do it for 200 years at least.
Okay, but now I said it can be destroyed in 3 months. Is it by one party, one man, or is it by like the whole political system that's also combined in like this geostrategic position Poland? Because otherwise it's really hard to understand how this argument about nation and identity comes to play without just being a fetish or being a cultural, psychological thing that's played as populist politics strategy. That's like, it's hard for me to understand in the relationship to that Poland is different to whole political democratic systems that are
because our experience with liberal democracy is 26 years of what is going on now, plus 6 years between 1920 and 1926. That's it. It's a little bit different, you know, experience than American, French, British, you know, even German. So this could be like an answer to you, you know. Even in Germany, like, you know, after 1945, they built something and they are pretty, like, you know, keeping an eye on it, you know. And even if their constitutional court is extremely serious and important, and some sentences, some rulings of this works against even Germany sometimes, but they still like survive, like they still like. Well, you know what I'm talking about. Like, democracy started to be very important for Germans, and you can feel it, you know. So, but you need
but
time.
It's also like, my question was more. I can understand what you say, but my question was like, if you think about Germany and political strategy over the last year, for example, you have this debate about whether it's possible to have a different sort of government or the European idea, like Syriza in Greece has. It's for half a year later, there's this refugee crisis, and Germany comes with open arms, and everyone can get into Germany. So, if you think about that, like politically, is it like a cultural identity or a strategy that is played there, or is it like also an economic reason, or something that has a combination of all the forces that come into play?
When it comes to Berlin, I mean, it was both. From economical point of view, this politics is like, you know, the Germans were you know, having a lot of benefits from this policy, north-south. They were like exploiting actually countries like Greece.
Yes.
And so this austerity policy works against Greeks, but it doesn't really work against Germans. However, the debt in Greece is unpayable. Like, you cannot really solve it. So this politics, from this point of view, is stupid, because Germans will not get back their money. But of course, Merkel did it because of the pressure of public opinion. So there is a significant part of populism in the choices of Merkel, in both things.
Yes.
Because the first this open arms to refugees had big support from Germans also, because of their, like, this is their revenge to the history, or they pay off for history, okay? We did this, you know, worst things in the history of humanity in 1930s and 40s, but we have now 10 million of immigrants. They are best assimilated, probably, immigrants in Europe. We can get another million, okay? We will solve it for you, okay? Which was very beautiful. I'm fully supporting, you know, Merkel in this point. Like, I'm fully supporting Pope Francis in almost everything, okay? However, I'm anti-clerical and, like, I don't believe, but Francis probably is the most hated priest in Polish Catholic Church. Well, I don't know, but, like, if you compare them, then there are two different churches.
There's an...
But you still want to say something?
Yeah, that was just an introduction. But the thing was, now if you compare these kind of maybe opposite positions of Germany over the last year, because you mentioned Germany before, if you have Poland, like if you the question is, do you think it's really a psychological or political theme about the nation and how people reflect about the state, or is it more a strong, how to say, political interest in different economic players, companies, I don't know, groups of people? That was not clear to me when you talked before about the current situation, that it's not the traditional left-right position like in other European countries, but more a thing about like democracy as a political sphere, and then anti-democracy party like.
Are you an artist?
Peace, yeah?
Are you an artist? Because I couldn't understand your first question and your second. Okay, good. I thought that either you are a football player or an artist.
Whatever. Go on if you want.
Thomas, you got the point or not?
Not quite sure.
No, I'm sorry, but
okay,
we are friends. We know each other, so.
But I had
But
I had some ideas on his question. Maybe that's the point. Having ideas on this question.
Explain everything out of history.
So what's exactly the point? What's exactly the point?
Is the difference between like political analysis from a systematic point of view, like analyzing economy, analyzing the whole system, like is it democracy, is it totalitarian or that sort of system, then opposed to is it a psychologically historically developed system, like I had the impression you did about Poland.
So like, what's the most significant difference between Eastern Europe and Western, or Poland and...
No, the thing I was a bit surprised is, why do you think about Poland more like it's a nation and we have to think about the nation, then you would think about nations in Western Europe? Is it a historical point of view, or is it like the political systematic? That was somehow the sphere or the context.
We just started, no problem.
So the question is about the homogeneity of a system of nation states, as I understood the question. So the question is, you still can say, okay, there are fundamental differences between Eastern European nation states and the Western European nation states, but still they are in a system of nation states. And the absence of having, I don't know, this tradition of liberal democracy than France and Germany doesn't mean that you doesn't have liberal democracies at the same time where you didn't have them in Poland. So are there still, what are the connections? Come on! So, maybe it's time to get in the other room.
Ein wird Polen sein. Wird sich Polen aufmachen auf neue Wege oder was?
So that's the dritte Anlauf, so maybe we really... is there another question? A short one.
Thanks very much.